Hey, this is Anthony from This Wildlife, and you're listening to Breakdowns for Breakfast podcast.
Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast. I am your host, Danger, and joining me is a fellow that cannot properly break down an album without Monster. Say hi, Monster.
Yo, good morning. How's it going?
I'm doing all right. Bringing the funk with the yo.
Yeah, and I vowed that I would quit asking you how you're doing, and then immediately did it. So, well.
Yeah. It
shows you how much I care, even when I don't want to care.
It's just your innate politeness. So
I hate it.
Anyway, on this episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast, we're going to be talking about sorry, I don't know where all that came from. We're going to be talking about Avoid, the album Cult Mentality, released November 4th, 2022. Monster, had you ever heard of Avoid before talking about this album?
So this is pretty cool. This marks a first for our show. This is the first time we did a sampler CD. Usually when we do an album, it's one band and 10, 12, 15 songs by that one band. Instead, we got this, which is, I'm assuming, 10 distinct bands, because very few of these songs sound alike. Now, correct me if I'm wrong there, Danger. Is this indeed 10 separate bands, or is this just one with an identity problem?
No, this is one band, Avoid. Yes. But you're kind of onto something there, because I don't feel like this is 10 different songs. I feel like this is really 10 songs, all the same band, but comes in really like third and fourth chunks of the album. You know, there are two distinct, quite different songs on this album from everything else. But to go along with that, so I found this band some time ago. They opened for a band that I went to go see. Yes, of course.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, right.
I knew that was coming.
So I went to go see The Plot New. And opening for them was Cane Hill. Then Avoid. Then Silent Planet. And by the time we got to The Plot New, who the lady and I both love, and I think I've talked about this before on this episode, or on the show, I think on the Silent Planet episode, by the time we got to The Plot New, I was kind of done, because while I don't really like Cane Hill's recorded stuff, live they're amazing. Avoid, I had never heard their stuff before. I checked them out a little before the show, but they were amazing live, just so much fun. And then of course, Silent Planet, I'm a fan, so I was just, I was fit to be tied before The Plot New ever came on. And after seeing Avoid, I'm a fan, through and through.
Well, and let me clarify. I was being a little silly there during the intro there. To answer your actual question, I might have heard of them, but I don't think I'd ever listened to them before. I know we talked about the whole music video thing. You don't like to watch the music videos.
I've seen all their videos.
You had mentioned that they were really good live, and just judging from some of the lyrics and stuff, I had a idea that these guys probably had a fun personality, and you would tell me they were really energetic live and stuff. So I watched all the videos, got a feel for the personality of the band, and I think they're cool. Like, I think they're cool young dudes. I like that the singer has this tendency to yell and scream, but he has a big smile on his face. And I think that's there's this positivity to it. They're very silly, and I like all that. I just kind of struggle with the album as a whole, but I do have kind of a funny take on that we can kind of get into. But to your point, I actually kind of made a note on every single song of what genre I think it belongs into. Okay. Because you said there's two songs on here that sound like they don't fit. I disagree. I think every song, other than like two or like 4 and 5 kind of go together, and 7 and 9 kind of go together. But other than that, each song is kind of its own thing.
So I want to go back and I don't remember saying that they don't fit, but even if I did say they don't fit, I guess we could rewind the tape. I don't know, as if we still use tape.
I think you actually said you have 2 songs that are a lot different than the rest of them.
There are 2 songs. Yeah, there's 2 songs on here, which I actually came up with a new term, and I will say that I'll give you that term when we get to those songs. But it's like 2 songs that are just so different from everything else, but I still think they fit because of things that other songs are doing. And it's like just these 2 parts of this album that are just very different, but still work within the album.
Okay, so this is something that I noticed this afternoon when I was listening to it again. The first time I listened to this album from start to finish, it was jarring because it felt like
I can see why it could.
Yeah, every song kind of felt like a different band. But as I got more familiar with the album, they have these little ticks and these little things that they do that do make it a little bit more coherent. Mm-hmm. But then I found myself liking it less. Like it's hard to explain. The other big problem that I had, and this is just a personal preference, is to me, the first 2 songs in particular are like the nu metal section. And so when I heard the first 2 songs, I was kind of all in. And not to show my cards too quickly, but track 3 is my least favorite song on the album. And then it kind of jumps all over the place after that. There's some stuff I still really like coming up later in the album, but I felt like the album I expected from the first 2 songs wasn't even close to the album that I got. And I had to adjust to that.
Right. And I get that. So, okay, I do want to talk about what they look like live and what they do look like in their videos. So, first off, I do want to say that this album sounds like they're having fun. And the videos look like they're having fun. Like you said, he's screaming his head off and he's got a big smile on his face, and he does the entire time they're playing live. Now, live, I feel like based on the wardrobe that at least one of the guitar players and the lead singer had, they just stop by the local thrift store and pick up whatever. But that's a look that they have in a lot of their videos, is just thrift store clothes, which I'm cool with. Now, when they played live, the singer had on like a Dale Earnhardt jacket and like a Winston Cup, red hat, and the guitar player, remember, he had like these like old lady capris with like palm trees on them. And it was fun. And like it let me know as soon as it came out, like, this is not going to be a serious thing at all.
And when you are in the same category as bands like Cane Hill and Silent Planet, and then you show up dressed that way, smiling and laughing your way through your set, I love that sort of thing. I really, really do. So this is almost like, it's not going to be as aggressive as like Sweet Spine was, but I will say that I think these dudes are really cool. I'd love to go see them in concert.
You absolutely
I'm just not completely sold on the band as a whole, the album as a whole.
Okay, so this album, one of the things that I appreciate about this album is that there is not one single fade out on this entire album. Like, there's not one song that ends with a fade out. All of the songs end like with purpose, and I appreciate that.
There's one song that ends with some beepity boops. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily, it kind of fades out, but you're right, it doesn't fade all the way out. It kind of like gets quieter and then stops.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. They all stop. That's true. There is a little bit of tambourine on here. Are you okay with that?
There is a little bit of tambourine, and I was okay with it. I didn't love where the tambourine happened, but I was more okay with it because the tambourine wasn't so prevalent and
sure,
anger-inducing. Okay, but this album is great for if you are riding the line in your personal life between angry and happy all the time. It's basically a bipolar album.
Okay. that's a good segue into this point I wanted to make. We've talked about bands and their albums, and if they're a collection of singles or if they're a cohesive album with a through line.
Right.
Now, this is something I had never really truly felt before until this album. This is a playlist album.
Yes.
Now, what I mean by that is...
I know what you mean, but go on.
Okay, you and I... Now, I'm a little bit of a weird guy, but I know a lot of people like to have a playlist for their workout mix or their dance party mix or their angry mix or their sad mix. And you put songs by whatever bands that you like on those playlists. There's a song for any one of those playlists on this album.
Yes, there is.
There's a dance party song. Mm-hmm. There's a smoking weed song. There's a depressing song. There's an angry, scary song. So this might be the most genius thing ever, maybe, but it's like they created an album where is it really cohesive and coherent? Maybe, but there's potential to reach all these different audiences by having your song on this emo screamo playlist, by having your song on this metalcore playlist, by having your song on this butt rock playlist. Like, they've covered everything. Now, downside of that is, like, for me, for example, I heard the first couple songs, thought I knew what I was getting. That's not what I got. If you would have heard one or two of the other songs, you might have thought you were getting something that ended up being something different, and you might be a little disappointed. That's a gamble you got to take, you know? Right.
And so I do want to kind of take that and kind of talk about something that you mentioned a few minutes ago. So yes, I do know what you mean by there's these little things that are a through line through the album, little things that songs do share, but each song, you know, I don't want to say each song, I would say like, you know, two songs off of, pairs off of this album do belong on different playlists. And while I do agree with what you said before about how the more you listen to it, the more it kind of, the less you enjoy it. And I think it's because just like with Weird Al, the first time you listen through to the album, you're surprised by what you're getting. And then the more you listen to it, the less surprised you are. This album, the first time you listen to it, you get very surprised different places. And then you kind of expect it the next time. Now, with that, I think as you listen through this album more and more, you find certain spots that you like more and more. Now, I can tell you that live, everything is more of the screaming, that's just what it is live.
Well, I would imagine that depending on who they're on tour with, they would cater their set. I didn't get a chance to listen to a whole lot of other stuff by them, but I have a assumption that it's probably similar. It's very diverse and kind of a mix of stuff. So they probably have a good 30-minute set for if they're on tour with bands like Silent Planet, or if they end up on tour with a band like Story of the Year or something, you know?
So another song of theirs I would recommend checking out is a song called Hostage at a Beach House Party.
I wanna feel something more, just something
that one kept popping up. I think I probably did hear it or part of it or something because I was watching videos and listening to stuff and it would just kind of keep going. So good song titles. Most of the song titles are pretty cool.
Oh yeah. No, I actually think that this is a very well constructed album. And now with that, I did find an interview a while back and I wanted to go back and find it when I was putting together notes for this episode. It was an episode it was an interview with the lead singer, Benny. And he was talking about different parts of the album. So there are different things I'm going to bring up from that interview because I do think it is interesting. Okay. I think it's fun when an artist sits down and does an interview about the entire album, and not just the album, but track by track of what the album was.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I like that too.
Yeah. So with all that, are you ready to just jump into it?
Yeah.
Are you done avoiding the track list?
I was gonna say, that's a bold move, naming your band a verb that like implies to not listen.
Oh, which also, so every one of their shirts at the merch table said "Avoid Kicks Ass." Yeah,
I saw the behind them, like when they were performing live, the the thing that said that. And then also all their videos start with "Welcome to the Avoid Show."
Yeah.
Like with like a 70s kind of thing. That's like I was saying, I'm not going to be like, I was real hard on that Sweet Spine album, and I'm not that hard on this album at all. But I think I like them better than I like the music. Which
I just going to go off on a Sweet Spine thing real quick. They just released a new song. It's pretty good. I like it.
Everything they've released is pretty good, except for the one album we did. That sucked.
That's true. All right, track 1, My World.
Better get out before it goes down. Welcome to my world, bitch, right down. Blood stains on your t-shirt. I told you I would show you what it's like to burn. Crooked nose, flash, I'll leave you in a puddle. I'll write your name on the wall with my bloody knuckles.
You talked about the first part of this album is the nu metal section. Now, one of the things that I do want to talk about is like the opening vocals that we get here are very Fever 333.
Go back to basics. That shit meant nothing to you. It's overrated. There's no debate.
That's exactly who I was hearing too. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That sort of like half scream, half rap thing.
Right. And it's got like the distortion on it and all. And I thought it was fun. I feel like this opening track really did a good joke of setting up what you're about to get, because it had little bits of what was going to happen, but it didn't have like the full barrage of what was going to happen.
Right. I agree. That's kind of what I was saying as far as it feeling a little more coherent the more times I listened to the album from start to finish.
Right.
But overall, this song has a pretty big nu metal vibe with that kind of rap scream verse, big hooky chorus. But you're right. There are a couple of little things here or there with like, there's this really aggressive blast beat at like 145. It's kind of a neat little moment, and some kind of like cool off kilter guitar chugs kind of in the back half of the song. But I liked it. I was all in. I thought it was a good opener. Yeah, I was excited for what was to come.
So you're talking about the blast beat at 145, and I actually have from 125 to 214, it just becomes a heavy flurry with a couple pick scratches.
Yeah, I even heard that little, like, you can't put a little scratching in there and not get a little bit of a nu metal vibe from that.
And Monster is not going to miss the nu metal pick scratch on an album. So, all right.
Yeah.
So in the interview I was talking about, Benny said that this riff on this song, they've been kicking it around for a year and a half. And the riff was called The Joke That's Always Funny. And I think it's funny that they like named this thing. And it was like they were trying to find a place to put it in somewhere. And it worked here. So, cool.
Yeah, I think this is a solid opener. And I will say, out of all the songs, I would say out of all of the songs, this one probably does the best job of incorporating a little bit of everything that they do. There's one more song that in a minute, but this one I think is a good opener because of that.
Yeah, I actually think that this is a great opener for this album. I don't know another song I would have put as an opener because, like I was saying, this song does a great job of kind of giving you little bits of everything you're about to get. Yeah. So I don't know if this entire album was written as an album, like we've talked about, instead of a collection of singles. Now, you talked about it being a playlist album, but I do think that this album did a good job of picking its opener and its closer. I think that those were well placed. Everything else, I kind of feel like could be changed around because you're going to just pick random songs for your playlist.
I disagree about closer, but we'll discuss when we get there.
All right, that's fair. All right, track 2, Blast Off. I'm talking about marijuana.
Yeah, very kind of like late 90s, early 2000s nu metal.
Yeah.
It has a little bit more of that kind of raw rap rock kind of thing going on. I love it. Like, this is, again, right up my alley. Like, I'm totally into it. Their sense of humor and their personality starts to kind of peek out on this one. I thought it was really funny, that little thing where he's talking about the radio at around 40 seconds, and he says, sings the Metallica line, and he kind of changes his voice, wherever I may roam.
Where the fuck is all radio stuff? Go wherever I may roam. And lights so bright, running every
That was cool. Yeah, this one's fun. This one's fun as hell. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, this track was a lot of fun. You know, and so what I was talking about before is that little, like, real quick, I'm talking about marijuana in the intro.
I'm talking about marijuana.
And I'm pretty sure it came from Reefer Madness, the movie. So the song ends, but not really, at 1:55 into what I could really only put together as like a party check.
Hey, you guys good? Did you get there?
That shit had me.
Like checking in on people at the party, and then it goes into a list of everything that he effing loves.
I fucking love my life. I fucking love being high. I fucking love writing songs in the middle of the night. I fucking love my friends. I fucking love fast cars. I fucking love this shit. I fucking love it. I fucking love it.
Yes. That part in particular is a lot of fun. Gave me big, like, old school Reveille, Limp Bizkit vibes, like early rap rock vibes. The line about "I love when your mom buys me shots at the bar," like, that's a hilarious.
Fast cars, I fucking love it when your mom buys me shots at the bar.
That's actually something from that interview where Benny was talking about, like, that's one of his favorite lines from the breakdown is, "I love it. I ever love it when your mom buys me shots at the bar."
Like, I think Benny's cool, man. I would like to hang out with him. He seems like he's a good time and a positive vibe. We'll get into it as we keep going.
So talking about that, like, early 90s, I don't want to say early nu metal thing.
Yeah, like that late 90s, early 2000s flavor of nu metal, like right as it was starting to get a little meaner, but also a little bit cleaner, if that makes sense.
But see,
like this.
But see, there's a thing that happens in this song that doesn't happen anywhere else on the album, where it's almost like a late, like, I don't want to say, I don't know, like a 94, 95 Nine Inch Nails vocal distortion on, like, where he does a little bit of singing. He does like a sing talk thing with that distortion on it. And I like that every time it came to that, because I like, you know, that era of Nine Inch Nails for sure.
Like, this song does not sound exactly the same, but it sort of was giving me like Limp Bizkit Faith vibes.
Yeah.
Where it's a little rough, like, not rough, but it's like a little raw, like recording wise, and a little loose, but it still has that, it's kind of poppy and fun, but it's still heavy and grooving. Yeah. Great song. This is probably my favorite song on the album. There's one more later I'm a big fan of, but this one might be my favorite.
So number 2 might be your favorite. So I'm kind of, okay. So 10 tracks. What was it? 31 minutes.
Yeah, it's short. It's a short record.
Yeah, it's 31 minutes 48 seconds, and I don't have the time on each song, so I won't be able to give that breakdown to things. But all right. So, track 3, Cowabunga. Now, you said that you didn't like this song.
No.
Why?
No, this one sounds very generic screamo metalcore to me. After the, like, personality and the fun of the first 2 songs, I don't know. This one doesn't have any of that in it. It sounds like an Under Oath song or something where they do those, like, pretty open chords while he screams his head off. And then there's literally 1 second of acoustic guitar in the middle of it for some reason.
Yeah.
Which, again, maybe that's kind of funny in its own way. But to me, this song just, it lacked all the fun and personality of the first two songs. And this is when I was like, the first time listening through, I was like, what is happening? Like, this doesn't even feel like the same band as the first two. And boy, I had no idea what was coming. But that was, track 3 was when I already was starting to go, okay, this might not be the album I think I'm getting.
So, okay. I like this one because I felt like that little bit of acoustic you're talking about is actually their personality. Because why would any band ever put in something like that breaks the moment so much if it wasn't for the band just thinking it was funny?
But the first two songs were all personality. And this one sounds like a stock screamo song with literally 2 seconds of personality. It doesn't work for me the way the first two do.
And see, I feel like, I don't know why I trip over I feel so often. I feel like this track really kind of showed that they were able to really jump between the different genres. And I feel like that's what this album does all over the place. It jumps genres constantly.
I agree. And as we have made clear in the past, the genre that this song belongs to is much more in your wheelhouse than it is in mine.
That's true.
So that would be why you're still having a good time, and I'm starting to get nervous about the rest of the album.
You're starting to get nervous. I didn't really think that you were going to get nervous about a void. I feel like you would avoid that feeling.
I was having a real good time, and then when I saw the song title Cowabunga and it turned into a Cowabummer, I was very disappointed.
Oh, Cowabunga to Cowabummer.
And then a void, I was thinking, ooh, hope I don't have to.
So, okay. I love the intro on this song. It's a fun intro. I like it. There's a section, I can't remember exactly where it is. I didn't take down time notes on everything, but there's like this distorted vocal with like this steady drum beat that happens. And I actually think that part's a lot of fun. I will say that I feel like this song is about 2/3 fun. I kind of lose it at a certain part on this song, because it does. Okay, so that sound, it's like we've said before, when something is heavy all the time, it has a hard time staying heavy. And I kind of feel like that's what this one did. This one didn't give us a whole lot of dynamics within the song. And I understand that's hard to do for a lot of bands. I get that. But I kind of feel like this one I was having fun with up until a certain point. And the thing about this album is certain songs have a fatigue to them. Yeah, and
for sure.
I wouldn't say that this album has a fatigue to it because the songs change so much. But I kind of feel like at a certain point, it's like, all right, we're good here. I don't need to keep going.
And to complement the song, one thing that I really did like was the guitar players show off a little bit on this one.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of these like little neoclassical, almost hair metal-y kind of like licks kind of thrown in there, which I appreciate as a guitar player. But as a whole, this is just the kind of song that doesn't really resonate with me very much.
Okay. All right. That's fine. All right. Track 4, Split, Kill It. So this is just a big, aggressive, and in-your-face song.
I feel like, we talk about songs being, like together, like we said, the first two songs kind of sort of flow together really nicely. I feel like 4 and then into 5, both of those have kind of that like new core, like definitely see why they were on tour with Silent Planet. It has like the trappings of the more thrashy, death metal-y kind of stuff, but then it still has some locked in grooves like that new core stuff, like Thornhill and Silent Planet and Cane Hill, like all that checks out for sure.
Yeah.
I like this one. I don't like it as much as the first couple songs, but I like it way more than Cowabunga. I'm a big fan of the verse where he like screams the line and then they play the riff with no vocals on top, and then the riff stops, he screams the line, then they play the riff with no vocals. Like, I love that, like, going back and forth during the verse. I thought that was fun. And then there's like the pre-chorus followed by the huge, big, catchy chorus, which I'm into all of that too. So I really liked this one. This one kind of pulled me back in. So I was like, okay, Cowabunga, not so much. But
right,
a little more into it.
Now, I'm going to try to put you into a place in a couple different songs on this album.
Okay.
Do you know why you like this song a little bit better? Because this song was basically if Linkin Park was a metalcore band.
Oh yeah, I will say there's a couple of times where his scream singing gave me some Chester Bennington vibes, and just the fact that they're playing with that new metal sound while still putting in some bleeps and bloops here or there, I was definitely getting a lot of that. Like, we talked about it before. A lot of these new core bands that we, use that term, they borrow very heavily from Linkin Park and Deftones. And you hear both of those bands in this song for sure.
And I definitely feel like this album is really kind of showing that they're trying to almost like forge a new path within this entire genre of things and really kind of push new sounds within it, which I like. I like it. Mm-hmm. Especially that there is a scream at 150 that almost hurts. That was the best way I could put it, because it was like I heard it. Every time I heard it, I was like, oh, okay. All right.
And then I've got in my notes at 254 the "Don't Make Another Sound" section. That's pretty brutal too.
So, all right, there is a lyric in this song, which there's a lyric in a lot of these songs that I just stuck out to me. So he said in the first verse, he said, I feel it starting to take over my body now. The panic feels like a drug and I'm blacking out.
I feel it starting to take over my body now. The panic feels like a drug. I think I'm blacking out.
And it's kind of like, that's almost a feeling that anybody can relate to on a certain level, where especially if you have performed or been on a stage in front of people, where it's like, it's almost like that feeling is something that you crave, but it also almost makes you pass out.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's been plenty of times. I can think back actually not that long ago when I was in Red Letter Rising, we did a gig with Trapped.
Do I need to put in a Red Letter Rising sound clip? No,
you don't.
Okay.
And you don't need to put in a sound clip of Trapped either, because everybody knows that sound clip. But it was at a really small club, so it was sold out. So it's a small venue, but it is wall to wall, shoulder to shoulder, just packed in this place. And I'll be honest, we weren't prepared, and we did not do very well. We saved it before it was all over, but at one point we had to stop in the middle of a song. I was very embarrassed. And for those of you that don't know, when I was in Red Letter Rising, I was a little more theatrical. I had like a mask and like this wild costume on and stuff. So I'm literally standing there and I can feel like my face on fire because I'm so like embarrassed that we're like, hold on, we gotta stop the song, the track, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die here. Like, I don't want to die at a Trapped concert. Like, in all the ways to go, that is near the very bottom of the list.
So you could say that in that moment you felt trapped?
I did not feel headstrong. I will tell you that.
Track 5, whatever.
Looking for gold in the dust on yourself. Blaming the world when you should blame yourself. Go reign supreme. We're just doing the same damn thing. In a room of empty.
I feel like, hold on. I feel like if disrespect your surroundings is the most memed moment, then robot voice should be like in the top 5 or 10 because that cracked me up every time.
Oh yeah. No, that intro where she says robot voice.
Yeah,
it's
robot
fun.
voice.
It's fun.
Robot voice.
All right, so this song is like a punch in the face, and I enjoyed getting punched personally. I don't know.
You know, it's funny. And I actually have this in my notes. It is an aggressive song. It is like, I like the super heavy riff throughout, but I think my favorite part is that real mellow section that starts around 152. I like the way he sings it. I like the guitar, like the way it's picked. And then if you listen carefully, you can hear in the second half of that little mellow section, they start to like pitch shift it and it like starts to get a little wobbly sounding.
Yep.
That's all super cool. Like
So-
I like all of that.
So what I thought was really neat about that at 252 is it changes pace, but if you really listen to it, it's in vocals only. Like the music stays the same from before that. And so it really shows that what the vocals are doing can change the pace of the entire song. And he does that. And so then at 217, right after it starts to do that little warble you're talking about, the whole song changes. But it needed the reprieve because for 217, we were just getting pummeled up until 152, and then we got that little bit of change. But it's like, but we got this like little break with this gang vocal where they just say, "Just give it up."
So come on, just give it up. Just give it up. It's all alright. Come on, just give it up.
That I thought was great. That didn't take away anything from the song, didn't take away from the pace of the song, and then it goes right back into it, and then we get that change a little bit later on down the road. I love this one. This one I thought was great from beginning to end, from robot voice to the reprieve, and then to the end of the song. I just thought it was a fun song.
I like it. It's not one of my favorites, but I like it. And the video is a lot of fun too.
It is.
The video featuring Homeboy from Hawthorne Heights. And
which I tried to see if there was some sort of connection with that singer and the record label. There's not.
Okay,
There's not.
okay. It's very funny though, and I like sort of the play on the crabcore thing. And I think my favorite part of the video though is when they're pretending to do the crabcore thing and they're all wearing black and stuff. There's a part where they all lift their guitars over their heads, where that was a common thing. I remember seeing Under Oath do it every 30 seconds during their sets. But on the back of their guitars, like they have written "Avoid kicks ass" across like each guitar. It's like, that's fun. Again, these boys, they just seem like a lot of fun.
These boys are silly.
Now, I will say, Benny has a bit of a foul mouth. He says he likes to cuss a lot. But
he's a big fan of words that start with F.
Yes, but again, he says them with a smile.
That's true. That's true. All right. So track 6, Can't Take This Away.
You can't take this away. I got a feeling like I'm going too off the wall. I got a feeling like I'm going too off the wall. It's kind of funny how the people around you love to watch you fall.
So we come out of that song, whatever. And then all of a sudden, the Jonas Brothers walk in, and you're like, okay, all right, so this is what we're doing now? Okay, that's something.
So my first note on this song is, what is this song? It's a good time.
It is. And so now, to me, this song kind of falls into that like post-hardcore sound that a lot of bands do now, like Emarosa and whatever Johnny Craig is forcing people to do now. Like it has that like poppy, dancey, but still has kind of heavy guitars to it. But I love that. I love that sound. So I was all in, and then the little tambo comes shaking in. I was like, ooh, I bet Danger hates this. That makes me like it more. I love this song. I love this song.
Okay, so the thing about it is, before I sat down and listened to this album, I would have said that this was my cooking track because I actually had a lot of fun with this track, even though there is a tambourine on it. Now, if we're going to talk about random instruments that are put in on this song that are not anywhere else, let's talk about that sax solo at 2/7 or 2:20 or 2:12.
Yeah, the sax solo is definitely out of the blue. But you know what's funny? I could deal with the sax solo way better than the little hint at 151 where you'll just put a sound clip in. Everybody will know.
The Chili Peppers riff.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, God, like that's one of those moments where like I smiled and was angry, like all at the same time.
It's like they put a dad joke in the middle of it.
Yes, and it's not the first one, and it's not the last one. So
no,
good
okay.
on 'em.
So Benny actually was calling those Easter eggs within the album.
Okay,
so
cool.
There's the Metallica Easter egg. There's this, and there's another one a little bit later on. So for this track, he said, speaking of poking fun at yourself, this song also does that quite a bit. This song actually came together from being stuck at a fork in the road. We had a handful of songs done that we knew we loved, and we were trying to figure out what to do next. We threw out the idea of redoing some of our old songs, thought of the Thoughts of You, I guess is another one of their songs, and maybe try and give it a whole new life or something. We sat down to do that, and we noticed ourselves picking a lot of stuff apart, and it was hard to be productive nitpicking song you wrote when you were 7/18 finished, and we shifted focus. So I appreciated that about this, because it was like, I felt like he was saying that this was like a song they almost had done, and then they had to pretty much just dismantle the whole thing and redo it. And I thought it came together as a pretty cool track, because, I mean, this one sounds probably the most fun on this entire album.
It does. And that's why I was struggling when I said that Blast Off is probably my favorite, because Can't Take This Away is right up there with it.
Right.
I feel like the first time I listened to this album, this was my favorite song. And then as I listened to it a little bit more, I think I like the vibe of Blast Off a little bit more. But no, this is a lot of fun. I love the dancey vibe of it. I've made no secret that I like poppy dance music. So
yes, you do.
I do like the heavy guitars with the poppy dance music. So yeah, all in. Good song. Like it.
All right, there's a line in this song I do want to talk about right quick. So it's the first line of the song, and then I feel like he just kind of repeats all the lyrics over again. But he says, I got a feeling I'm going to off the wall.
I got a feeling like I'm going to off the wall.
Yeah.
Now, that made me feel like he was writing the lyrics about going to Warped Tour, because that was Van's Off the Wall. Warped Tour was the full name.
You don't think it was a reference to Michael Jackson's debut solo album, Off the Wall?
But see, that's why I brought it up here, because I felt like you were going to bring that up. No, I kind of was looking at it going, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Chili Peppers, sax solo.
Yeah. It's Jonas Brothers meets Linkin Park with a Red Hot Chili Peppers joke in a sax solo.
Yep, and then it ends on a bass solo.
Well, 'cause I won't on the phone, but I won't call you. Said you change, but you don't. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and with him telling you to go F yourself. So.
Right. So, all right, track 7, GATOR Fest. said, Gator Fest is a song we wrote literally running on fumes in the early hours of the morning. We had a deadline in mind that we wanted to get this batch of songs done in, and we only had a few songs left to go. So we pulled a double shift that day and worked through all hours of the night on this one. And that's exactly what this song sounds like.
Yeah, and at this stage, I wasn't prepared for it.
No.
And I don't know that was happy that it was there. Once you know it's coming, it's a little bit easier to kind of go along with. It's not the most unhinged song that we're going to get, but I wasn't really ready for it. And to be honest with you, coming out of Can't Take This Away, this doesn't feel right. Like this is where that disjointed disconnect really, like, you feel it full force.
Yeah. All right. So this song is 3 minutes, 40 seconds. And I feel like this sounds more like a song up until 117. And then after 117, it starts this like slow descent into madness. Like at 217, it just becomes the aimless noise that happens at late at night.
Yeah, so there's a quote at 238 that I will not repeat that is very nu metal, for the record.
Fuck you, you stupid motherfucker!
But that sort of kicks off for me when the like real insanity ensues, and there's this deep guttural scream around 312.
Burn! Out!
That, again, cool. It's impressive. I don't like this kind of music very much. So again, like, we've got songs like Blast Off, and we've got songs like Can't Take This Away, and then this isn't the same band to me. Like, this feels like, hey, we did an episode on I Wrestled a Bear once. I like some of that. I do. Yeah. But I've got to be in the mood for that. That's not the kind of music that I can just have on. Like, if I have a rock music playlist and I'm listening to rock music and then I Wrestled a Bear Once comes on, I'm changing it. That's not what I want to hear when I'm listening to just rock music. So, yeah, I came to like enjoy parts of the song, but my first time through, I was like, ugh. Like, yeah. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. Now the video for Gator Fest, I don't know.
The video's great. Yeah. I love the video.
The video is a lot of fun. All right, so let's talk about track 8, Bored. Now, I do want to say that if you look it up on Spotify, the BO are capitalized and RED are not. And so that's all really stylized. Yeah, Bo Red. So, all right. I liked this song coming out of the madness that Gator Fest was.
Yes, I do. I like this song way more than Gator Fest. But this one almost sounds like, obviously a heavier version, but I was getting big 90s power pop vibes off of this one, like something by Tonic or something by Lit, like one of those just big poppy songs that just has a little bit of a rock riff to it. Again, all about it. I love that kind of stuff. So I was all in on this one too. And it's real short and it's real catchy. So yeah, I thought it was a really good song. It feels very weird in between 7 and 9. 7 and 9 feel like a section, and then you could have almost had Can't Take This Away, Bored, and the last song as a section. Yeah. But the track listing feels very uncomfortable. Like it physically makes me uncomfortable.
In the back half of this album, the track listing is off. Okay. Now, I mentioned before I'm going to try to put you in different places for this album. All right. So for Bored, the chorus and the verse are very different from each other. And I like them both, but I don't feel like they work together on, in one song. But for the verses of this album, of this song, excuse me, I want you to try to picture like a late 80s, early 90s sitcom with like a Matrix or Blade motif.
I'm all in. No, yeah. I get what you're saying. Like for me, this one really felt like, imagine Graduate by Third Eye Blind, just jacked up a little bit heavier. And that's what this is. Like this feels like a 90s pop rock song just being played by guys that are a little bit more aggressive. So I think this is a cool song. It's one of those that doesn't have a lot going on. It's a very simple song, so there's not a whole lot to talk about. There's a section that starts around 122 that has this little dip of kind of ethereal. I said it was a little Deftones, not exactly, but a little bit. That's the only section that feels a little bit different than the 90s alt rock stuff. But no, I think this is a cool song. I just think it's in a very weird place. I agree. All right, so let's talk about track 9, Finish Line 3, live on DVD. Son of a bitch, I just can't beat this dead horse into the ground. Nothing will change, I just take further. First off, let's talk about that title, because yeah, I don't know what it means, but okay. I don't either. And when I was going into the album, I was looking at it going, okay, so is this going to be like, I hadn't listened to the whole thing all the way through yet, and I was like, okay, is this going to be like a live track, put in from something? Nope, not at all. Not at all. This is, and I found this quote, Dillinger Escape Plan style devastation. So I wrote in my notes, as I've talked about before, first time listen, I try to take notes the very first time. And first sentence I wrote was, okay, maybe GATOR Fest wasn't as unhinged as I thought it was. This song is bonkers. Yes. It's literally just nonstop dissonant guitars and screaming. So I did say that I was going to bring a term forward that, and I thought of on this song. Heavy mashed potatoes, because mashed potatoes is just a heavy food, and that's what this is. It's just when a song is heavy just to be heavy. Yeah, I mean, this sounds like kind of the way you were describing GATOR Fest. Like, that's what this sounds like. It sounds like everybody in the room was just mad, and they were like, let's play the meanest, ugliest thing we can come up with. And they did it. And again, huge I Wrestled a Bear Once vibes. Dillinger Escape Plan, that's another good one. Job for a Cowboy. Like, it totally slots in with all that. Bored doesn't. Can't Take This Away doesn't. Blast Off doesn't. So I don't think this is the same band. I think 5 new dudes showed up in the studio. Like, I think it's really cool that they can do all those things, but it doesn't feel like the same band. I don't know. Like, it's right. All right. So jarring, different. So Benny said, there's not a single guitar recorded on this song. It's just a bunch of layers of bass. Stuff like that we find hilarious. I wish there were some cool, meaningful story with this one, but when we wrote Finish Line, there was one goal and one goal only, to make the heaviest thing that ever existed. Lyrically with this one, I feel like you can see that it's just heavy and mean, and this one has my favorite Easter egg of the whole record, cue Mr. Brightside. Okay. So to take the heaviest thing that they're going to try to write and throw in Mr. Brightside Easter egg, it's kind of like, okay, that's not exactly the Easter egg I would have gone for in there, but cool. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, when you read that, I'm smiling and I'm like, I get it. Like, I want to be in on the joke too. Like, right. I want you guys to think I'm cool. I think you're cool. I just don't like your song. This sucks. Like, no, and I kind of feel like this because of that. And before reading that, I was like, no, this song not so great. But I feel like this song was a joke to them on this album. Looking at the title and then knowing that there's not one single guitar, it's all bass, and they found it hilarious.
I feel like this was them having fun.
That does kind of color my opinion a little bit differently. And I said it sucked. I'm being silly. I don't think
the song isn't great. Let's just
well, it's not, but as I've talked about on other episodes, it's almost harder to play music that sounds bad.
Right.
Like, it takes a lot of skill and effort to be able to play, well, I was going to say guitar, but I guess bass guitar this way.
That's why you like Frank Zappa.
I love Frank Zappa. I think I need to listen to this again, and because I'm having a hard time believing there's no guitars, just bass guitars.
So I listened to it several times, and now I've seen bass guitarists play and have it run through pedals and stuff, and it sounds like a guitar.
Of course, right.
I mean, Royal Blood is one of the bands that come to mind, and it sounds like a blues guitar, and so I feel like that's probably something that's actually accurate for that one because of knowing that. But I think that this song was a joke to them entirely.
And if that is indeed the case, and they are just kind of, taking the piss, as it were, maybe I can kind of let it slide a little bit and not be so harsh on it, because knowing that Gator Fest was just a couple songs ago, this feels like kinship to that one.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel like a joke. It felt, and like you said, the lyrics are also kind of angry and mean, that it just kind of took me out of it. Like, with a title like Gator Fest, and sort of, it still had some like clean moments to it. Yes, it felt out of place, but I could see it being like, this is the heavy one on the album. But then this one came along and I was like, I'm not feeling this at all. But hearing that quote, I'm willing to kind of give it a pass then, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So let's round the album out and talk about track 10, Midnight 6.
It's always on my mind. Life on display all the time. I didn't know what I signed up for.
All right. Before we go any further, I do want to bring up the quote from Benny. I think it's funny because he, in the interview, he said, "Hey, congrats, you made it through the record." This is a song. Now here's a song we wrote on Christmas Day. The song is actually really fun to me. I think we clearly experimented and had fun with a lot of different genres and mashing of genres on this album. Which, yes.
Yeah, can't argue with that. So this one to me sounds like that new flavor of butt rock by bands like Memphis Mayfire and Atreyu. It's like that very specific sound, like Motionless in White, when they went from screaming and brutally heavy to sounding exactly like Breaking Benjamin. Like, it's that kind of butt rock, which I'm not against. I'm into a lot of those kind of bands. Wasn't expecting that on this album. So again,
especially following 9.
Right. Which actually we didn't bring this up, but on Finish Line 3, the way that song ends with the bleeps and bloops and it keeps getting slower and nastier, I thought that would have been a cool way to end the album, since that has this kind of drug out ending, where this one is just a huge, like, I said that if this song is not on Octane, it should be, because this is an Octane hit song.
I actually really like this song. And the thing about it is, I don't like that butt rock, thing that you were talking about. I'm not a fan of that, but I really like this one. I think this is actually probably one of the best songs on the album. And, maybe swapping 9 and 10 would have been better. I thought this was a good closer, but I didn't think about the ending of 9, like you were talking about, being what brought it down. Maybe that would have worked, but I don't know. I thought that this was a great track overall. Maybe it would be good to put another song that is good between, 7 and then 10.
Honestly, as I'm saying it and as I'm looking at the track listing now, what I feel like would have worked best for me personally is keep the first 5 the way they are, but then make Gator Fest 6, Finish Line 7, and then do Can't Take This Away, Bored, and Midnight Six as the last three. Have your just bonkers out of control section right there in the middle, and then end with three really strong songs that you're still mixing genres, you're still mixing stuff up, but they're all kind of catchy and coherent. Maybe that would have worked better for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. All right, let's talk about the song a little bit more. So I love the intro on this song.
Why can't I let go? Why can't I let go? Why can't I let
And then it's like the intro, I feel like the intro did better here than it did really anywhere else in the album, where it really bled into the song, because it's almost like the drums came in different at 46 seconds.
matter to me? I wish I could stop, get on track. I know I can't shape the world.
And then it kind of led into the song. I love the chorus on this song.
Why can't I let go? It's been so long. Hope I didn't fall behind.
But this song actually does something the rest of the album doesn't. It's different sounding than everything else here. But this song is the one song here that sounds more serious than anything else.
It does.
You know, the rest of the album sounds like they're having fun, you know, knowing that Finish Line is just a lot of layers of bass and they thought it was funny. I'm fine with that. GATOR Fest, you know, GATOR Fest lives in its own world. And I just feel like this was them taking it a little more serious. Not themselves serious, because they obviously don't, but they just took the songwriting process a little bit serious, a little more serious on this track.
Yeah, like this to me sounds like the guys going, hey, let's write a radio rock song.
Yeah.
Let's write a song that's going to put us on. I said Octane, like this slots in perfectly on Sirius XM Octane. That chorus is Money in the Bank. Great chorus. I love where after he sings the, oh, like where it goes up, there's these three little ding, 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 ding. I guess it's four little like synth notes in the chorus. Great. Like not only is the vocal melody catchy, but so is the synth line that accompanies it. So I'm all in. Like, I think this is a great song, and it just, I don't want to call it immaturity. I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying is if you're swinging for the fences, you don't make that track 10 on your 10 track album
Right.
after Finish Line. Like nobody's going to get to this if you're not careful.
Right. So if we put Finish Line and GATOR Fest, you know, as like the middle of the album, then wouldn't that stop people from even getting to Can't Take This Away?
No, because you haven't been listening to this for 25 minutes at that point.
That's fair.
Because at that point, you're only a few songs in. You're kind of because honestly, the first couple songs are heavy. The first 4 or 5 songs are heavy. So I don't feel like GATOR Fest and Finish Line feel super out of place. They're just heavier. But then you start to kind of like on the back half. I mean, I know I'm kind of contradicting what I said earlier about mixing the track listings, but like, honestly, if you just wanted to like start over from fresh, like this to me is a track 3 song. Like this is the one that you put in the important spot because it needs to be heard. But I don't get the impression that that's really what these kids are out to do. I think they're out to have fun and play shows and be crazy. So, you know, if the last track on your album happens to be the one that hits, it's not the most uncommon thing to ever happen, but it's not very common. I just don't think they care. Like, I don't think they're not looking for mainstream success.
But, you know, that kind of makes me like them more.
Exactly. No, I mean, like I said, I've said a lot of things about the songs and the album, but make no mistake, I think these kids are extremely talented, are having a blast doing what they love. And honestly, if it's not this song, if it's not something off of this album, I firmly believe something will, like, it would not shock me that in the next 5 years, A Void is the headliner and they've got 3 or 4 openers.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to say you're wrong there at all. So, Monster, what's new with you?
Hey, hey, good looking. What you got? Cooking.
I gotta go with Blast Off.
Wherever I may roam, and lights so bright, running every single life.
I think My World has a little bit. I think Bored has a little bit. I think Midnight 6 has a little bit. I think there's a little bit in several songs. But the most new from start to finish is Blast Off, for sure.
All right.
And Danger, what's cooking?
Well, I said it before. Before I sat down and really listened to this album, I would have said Can't Take This Away. But I'm going to go Midnight 6.
Let go! It's been so long, hope I didn't fall behind. But what do I know?
I just think Midnight 6 is probably one of the best beginning to end tracks here. You know, there's a lot of tracks on this album that there's certain little bits that I just can do without. Or, you know, I kind of get tired of the song before it ends. But Midnight 6, I liked it all the way through.
It's a good one.
Yeah. So you want to give me a closing statement?
Sure. And, you know, honestly, after what you said about Finish Line, it does kind of change my opinion a little bit of everything as a whole. But I'm just going to leave it as it is. And, you know, just it is what it is. So,
all
anyway.
right.
Bands that combine a lot of styles into their own signature sound is what makes a band sound fresh and original amongst their peers. Having versatility is always a plus for talented musicians. Avoid has all these traits, but I think they also have a little bit of an identity crisis. The 10 songs on this album don't sound like one band mixing several genres to make their own signature sound. This sounds like at least 3 distinctly different bands all adding songs to a compilation. The funny thing is, they do all of it really, really well. I think the alt metal, new metal bro inside of me got his hopes up on the first couple songs and then didn't really get an album that delivered on that. I like pretty much every genre and every band they are borrowing from, but some are so far removed from one another that it's such a tonal shift, it's hard for me to just go along for the ride. If I'm in the mood for Blast Off, I'm probably not in the mood for Finish Line 3. And if I'm in the mood for Midnight 6, I'm probably not in the mood for Can't Take This Away. I really like these dudes, and I have a feeling they're going to have a very bright future. But for me, this album is just a little too disjointed for me to be able to really lock in and enjoy it as an entire coherent piece. 1 to 10, I said 6.45.
All right, 6.45. I would be interested to see what your score is adjusted for what I was talking about with, you know, they did all the layers of bass just because they thought it was funny, basically. So
okay, so what I would say is I've told you this before. I didn't do it on this time, but a lot of times I will give each song a 1 to 10 rating. And so I'll just put it this way. There's like 5 songs on here that I really, really like. And then there's 1 or 2 more that I think are pretty good. And then 2 or 3 that I don't really care that I ever hear them again. They're just not for me. So I think I would stay in that 6 to 7 range. I don't think I would go over a 7, even with, you know, how funny Finish Line 3 is to the guys and the, you know, the Spinal Tap bass of it all.
Right.
But I don't know. It's not something I want to listen to ever again, you know?
All right. That's fine. All right. So I said, this band clearly doesn't want to fit into a box, and they succeed at that. If there was a box for them, I would just say it's a fun, funny box. There are different elements used throughout this album, which make it hard to label Avoid. Perhaps this is the new route rock and metal is taking as more bands start to sound like everyone else. Avoid is Avoid. It's hard to say more than that. Avoid is writing whatever and whenever, and that makes this album just plain delightful and in more than many of the other options in this genre. This album shows that there are certain growing pains in making their own sound that will make a mark on the wider scene. Do I think Avoid is going to make that mark? No, but I think they're going to help others make that mark. I gave this album a 7.83.
Nice, good. You get a nice high score there.
So, that puts Avoid, Cult Mentality, right below Bad Rabbits and just above Taylor Swift. So it knocked Taylor Swift down. All right, and that puts it in the number 10 spot at a 7.14. Thank you for listening, all. We really do appreciate it. If you have a suggestion for an album you'd like for us to talk about or have thoughts that you'd like to share about this episode, then please shoot us an email at breakdownsbreakfast@gmail.com or head on over to the Breakdowns for Breakfast Facebook page and let us know what you think there. Monster, what album are we talking about next week?
Next week, we will be going back into my world with a classic nu metal record. We'll be discussing Edema's self-titled debut from August 20th, 2001. Why should you avoid chefs who specialize in cooking breakfast?
Why?
They're always beating eggs.